hello there. You are listening to The Free Phils with me, your host, Phil Wainwright. Joining me in the studio, former football manager and current prisoner, Big Phil Philson. And of course, voted Cheese Magazine's most likely to be spotted with a mature cheddar, its talent agent extraordinaire, Phil the Money Morrison. Our special guest will be world-renowned sporting psychologist, Dr Shizerman. But first, Phil the Money Morrison, please tell us everything you know about our guest, Dr Shizerman.
Absolutely, Mr. Wainwright. I first came across Dr. Shizerman when I had my own need for professional services. I had my own need for medical, mental health attention. I kept sleeping around all over town, Phil, and as I explained to my wife at the time, it was all linked to my ADHD, my attention deficit disorder. She just couldn't hold my attention nohow. Nobody's to blame. I tried absolutely everything I could to get over my affliction. But even reverse psychology, I gave that a try, but I sure did have a hard time seeing a therapist through my rear view mirror, so I decided to give Dr. Shizerman a call. At my first session, he explained to me that psychology, man's introspection into the workings of the mind, is the oldest profession, Phil. Now, I had always been led to believe that filthy copulation in exchange for cash or some kind of meat was the oldest profession. But it turns out that paying for ideas of self-improvement is an ancient concept as well, Phil. So I guess these guys are kind of like mind prostitutes, if you think of it like that. Anyway, Mr. Wainwright, my point is this. No one is better placed to tell you how to live. Dr. Shizerman has been to university for 3 years. He liked his schooling so much, Phil, he stayed extra. That's a smart kind of guy. I once said to Dr. Shizerman, I said, Dr. Shizerman, what is the meaning of life? You know what he said to me, Phil? He said, Phil the Money Morrison, what is life? Now that's some purty thinking right there. That's one intelligent kind of guy, you know.
Right, thank you, Phil the Money Morrison. It looks like Dr Shizerman is actually ready for us now. Dr Shizerman, please come in and put on your headset and we'll get started.
Hi there. It's great to be on the show. Perhaps, Wainwright, we should first define what it is that you mean when you say show, you know? Because what are they? We talk about shows, don't we? But do any of us really understand what that is?
Yes, Dr. Shizerman. Perhaps we could get into that a little bit later. But first, please tell us what it is that you do. What is sporting psychology?
Well, Wainwright, it would really depend, wouldn't it, Phil, on what you mean when you say sporting and what you mean when you say psychology. I think it's best that I just tell you a story about a patient and we see if your comparatively feeble mind can comprehend my very important work.
Okay, Dr. Shizerman, that sounds fine. Please go ahead.
Well, I had a high-profile athlete patient of mine come into my practice, and he said, Dr. Shizerman, I'm suffering with depression. And I said, first of all, young man, we need to define what it is you think you mean when you say depression. And I gave a lengthy dissertation about depression to the patient.
Mr. Wainwright, depression's when people are like sad all the time, when they're just feeling like sad, like all the time, you know, that kind of thing. They might even cry, I guess.
Yes, Phil the Money Morrison, that's exactly what depression is, people being sad all the time. Now, while I was explaining depression and its many facets to the patient, he actually walked right past me, out into the waiting room, and took off his belt and hung himself from a ceiling fan. The police came in and they said, where is this man taking his own life? I simply said to the officer, what is life? What is a man? I was arrested for wasting police time. In court, I simply asked, what is time?
OK, Dr Shizerman, I believe you worked with Big Phil Philson for a short time at Pimbleton United. How was that experience for you?
Well, Big Phil Philson is a cold-blooded psychopath with homicidal tendencies. But he's an all-right bloke, really. As long as he's well medicated, heavily medicated, he's a great guy. Otherwise, as I say, homicidal tendencies.
How very insightful, Dr Shizerman. What else can you tell us about the mind and life itself?
Life, Wainwright, is always filled with surprises. Well, unless of course you're born into the world expecting constant misery with intervals of confusion. If you're born into the world that way, then I suppose life is fairly routine. I do find everything in life, Wainwright, for human beings anyway, is about sex. Apart from sex, of course, which is about power, and apart from power, which is about money. And money's about sex, really.
I see, Dr Shizerman. So it's like a vicious circle repeating itself in a way, I suppose.
What?
I suppose it's like a vicious circle repeating itself in a way.
I stopped listening to you. Did you have any sex or cash, Wainwright? You're getting tedious.
No, Dr Shizerman. My last questions in summary for you. Dr Shizerman, as I'm sure you're aware, a recent expose claimed that you have been physically harming patients and making claims that you have been blessed with magical testicles. If these are true, these general claims about magical testicles, are these practices ethical?
Well, I suppose it would all depend on what you mean by ethical, Wainwright, really, wouldn't it? Sigmund Freud once famously said, a cigar is just a cigar sometimes, you know. And I prove this to patients in session by lighting a cigar and stubbing it out on their forehead. And I go to them, look, see, it's just a cigar. These stupid, small-minded questions of yours, Phil Wainwright, they're not really focusing on my important work, are they?
No, Dr Shizerman. I suppose we should focus more on your important work, but please, perhaps just a small statement before you go about your claims of magical testicles.
Well, Wainwright, finally we get to my important work. I have been handed some data that suggests to me I've been handed this data by a trend analyst, and the data suggests to me, Wainwright, that there's a worrying rise in people wanting to harm themselves and everyone around them. So I'm looking into that in due course. But even more pressing is my research into the psychological reasoning for wearing sunglasses at night. That's important because the Institute of Style is paying me a lot of money for that, and then we'll come to the stuff about people harming themselves and everyone. As for my magical testicles, the answer is simple, Wainwright. I do indeed have magical testes. All one needs to do is fondle these magical testicles vigorously, working my shaft, and the source of human life flows out of my piss stick, believe it or not.
Dr. Shizerman, I think you might just be talking about jizz. Jizz happens to everybody, Dr. Shizerman.
Oh, right. I see. Well, that's a shame, really, Phil the Money Morrison, because this is quite a dramatic climb down for me, because until quite recently, until you've explained this to me, I was under the impression that I had magical testicles. So, this is quite an eye-opening interview for me.
OK, Thank you, Dr. Shizerman. That last revelation, I think, does mean that we can pretty much discount everything that you have said here today. Okay, listeners, we have Big Phil Philson ready to offer his thoughts on the interview and on psychology from a secure phone line. Big Phil Philson, did you enjoy the interview, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Duck, it were riveting, that interview, like, Mr. Wainwright. I do find therapy, Duck, can be helpful, like, psychology and all that, like, it can be helpful sometimes, Duck, in small doses. I was thinking about life, and the road not taken, Mr. Wainwright, and then my therapist reminded me, he said, Big Phil Philson, you don't walk down that road anymore, because that's where you did all the willy flashing, Duck, That's where you exposed yourself, so you can't walk down that road anymore. And then, the mind, Mr. Wainwright, the mind can play tricks on you, Duck, It can be right crafty, like. The other day it tripped me up, and then when I went to sit down, it made a fart noise. The mind, playing tricks on me, Duck, and when I was outside, when I weren't incarcerated, Mr. Wainwright, I did have my own struggles with mental health, as you know. I used to just cut myself just so I could feel something, Mr. Wainwright, and then my therapist introduced me to immersive art galleries, and that sort of saved me some blood, because you do what you want there, you get right involved in an immersive art gallery, like, So I got me thoughts on therapy, I guess, Mr. Wainwright.
I see, Big Phil Philson. Thank you for your thoughts on all of that. And how are things going in this prison?
Well, Duck, I think I've had enough, Mr. Wainwright. I'll be honest with you. I'm getting a bit bored of all this prison lark, Ever since Caller Number One's body was destroyed in that joke by the lads in here, I don't really think I like it anymore, I think I might just go, to be honest with you, Duck.
No, Big Phil Philson. This is a high-security prison. You cannot just walk out, I'm afraid.
Well, Mr. Wainwright, I mean, that's what some of the guards were saying. They're saying you can't just walk out, Duck, but, I don't know about that, because Explosive O'Neill, he reckons that we can just go if we want, That's what Explosive O'Neill reckons anyway, Mr. Wainwright.
Big Phil Philson, who is Explosive O'Neill? And I hesitate to ask this, but why is he called Explosive O'Neill?
Oh, yeah, Explosive O'Neill, he's great, Duck. He's me new best mate, is Explosive O'Neill, and they call him Explosive O'Neill, Mr. Wainwright, because he's known to carry and use live explosives, Duck, and projectiles, But he's a great lad, and he reckons that, it won't be too much bother to just sort of explode our way out of here, Duck. He says that won't be too much bother at all, really.
Big Phil Philson, this sounds incredibly dangerous. You only have a few weeks left to serve, and this man, Explosive O'Neill, he sounds like he might be a terrorist, for crying out loud.
Ah, look, Mr. Wainwright, I find that offensive, Duck, offensive in the extreme, to be honest with you, Mr. Wainwright. Just because a man has passion for explosives and happens to be Irish, you call him a terrorist, Duck. I think that's disgusting. I'll have you know that Explosive O'Neill was actually inspired by a magic leprechaun to do these explosions and is being paid in Guinness. All right, Duck?
Okay, Big Phil Philson.
All right, Big Phil, I'm ready to blow it all up, laddie boy. Oh, he's ready, Mr. Wainwright. He's going to just blow it all up now, lad.
No, what the fuck's going on? But what?
Sounds like they're exploding their way out of jail, Mr. Wainwright. I told you, Mr. Wainwright. I told you, didn't I? I'm just going to go, I'm just going to get out of here, Duck. No need for me to be in here anymore, Duck. We've exploded our way out and I'm just going to go, I've had enough, Duck. I'm not staying in here for another 3 weeks. I'll see you later. I'll pop in studio prep maybe if I get time, Duck.
Okay, listeners. We've lost our connection to Big Phil Philson, so let's head over to the headlines. Science is at it again. A team of researchers seeking to answer the question, is beauty in the eye of the beholder, have found the answer. After removing a volunteer's eyes and dissecting them, it turns out that blood and a sort of mulch are mainly in the eye of the beholder. You've been listening to The Free Phils with me, your host, Phil Wainwright. Please do like and subscribe and listen again. Goodbye.